This is Craig McCracken, the creator, director, etc., whatever, of the Powerpuff Girls movie.
And Mike Moon, the art director.
And so here's Cartoon Network's first, our feature logo for their feature film industry, and it's really amazing. It just kind of gets to me that Mojo's not wearing his cape. A lot of people forget that. A lot of the ads and the spots and the press stuff, his cape's gone. So here we have super cool multi-plane City of Townsville shot. We've never really been able to move through the city like this before, and this was like one of the real great things about the movie is to getting this depth and environment out of the shots.
These opening shots, a lot of times people ask if we set them up in 3D because, especially on something like this donut shop, you see such a sort of picture box quality to it. But they were all two-dimensional artwork that was just being trucked in on and manipulated at different speeds.
Yeah. And then this is my tribute to the Big Lebowski, one of my favorite films. The introduction of the professor is similar to the introduction of the dude in that film. So a little tip of the hat to the Coen brothers.
These scenes, we were going for that really bizarre supermarket, fluorescent, really depressing lighting environment, which kind of creates some really bizarre colors on people's skin tones and stuff like that.
Yeah, just kind of setting the tone.
Strange.
This is a sickly city. The city is not been cured of their illness. The girls are the medicine to fix the town. They're not there yet.
This first shot of the monkey here was really tricky layout-wise because we had to start at a really crazy tight field and truck out and pan.
There we are, destroying television, destroying my City of Townsville for my student film. And each one of these shots kind of represents, the credit. So there's a reel-to-reel for the voice actors and tons of paper for the storyboard artists. They're kind of visual representations of what the actual credit is. And it's also kind of a manifestation of the whole movie. Monkey destroying stuff. You kind of get the whole film in a microcosm right here. Timing, direction.
We tried to do a color thing there on the beginning where when you would see the professor, all the accent colors were in the cool families, and then whenever you saw the monkey, all the accent colors were in the warm families with the bottles and the test tubes and stuff like that. You don't really feel it.
Yeah, and this sequence on film didn't really get the reds that we wanted, but hopefully the DVD color will be a lot more accurate. That's what we were going for. There's JoJo peeking into the Chemical X. And the movie logo, slightly different than the show logo. But the thing that's cool about it is as it recedes into the distance, it looks like the show logo.
Now we enter into this very soft pink tint in the lab with the girls' accent colors being represented in the beakers and in the jars and test tubes and whatnot. And these backgrounds are really, really, really difficult to get to read because the values are so close and they're such sort of finicky colors, but I think the end result worked out pretty good.
And we kind of kept in mind the theater, and so some of these shots, like Professor staring into the audience, doesn't really work on a TV screen, but in a theater, it's a really funny scene. And, I always knew it would be funny just because you've got this giant head staring back at you. And, I always kind of knew that would work. And, it wasn't really a joke when you first watched it, like on a video cassette or whatever, but it definitely became one. And so here we've got the origins of the girls' names. There's a lot of, like, mini origins throughout this movie, within this origin story. And so basically the motivations for, why the girls are called what they're called. And then right here is the origin of Buttercup's bad attitude. See, she's such a happy girl right here at the beginning, and then, no, she gets the short end of the stick, and her life is doomed. She's going to be frustrated from now on because she's just because it started with a B. She's the forever middle child.
The new design on the house.
Mm-hmm. And CG car, Professor Avanti. Finally, he's got a cool car. Not driving a station wagon anymore. Anybody who's got a house like that is not going to drive a station wagon, or not drive a house like that. But anybody who has a house like that is needs a good car, a cool car, and Mike gave him the Avanti, which works out great. It looks like him, I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
Square motif.
Yeah, nice and square.
These, now that I remember, these backgrounds, when we originally received them from overseas, were warped so badly that there was no way to actually scan them and not get the warp on the final image. So these had to go through a lot of digital massaging to take the water ripples and whatnot out of them.
A lot of people ask what Chemical X is, and I don't know. It's just some mysterious chemical. Hey, there's the origin of Octi. See that? She got Octi day one. It's her favorite little thing.
Now, those stairs behind Professor's head were almost painted life-size that we could actually do this truck out.
They weren't that big. But
they were gigantic, and a lot of people had a lot of confusion over the size that those had to be generated at.
Yeah, the main reason is you can't go that tight on a piece of artwork. You're going to start seeing the painting. You're going to start seeing the texture in the background and whatnot.
And
also, that scene is like a nice visual representation of, you know, good and evil, dark side, light side. You know, the music here that Jim Venable did is absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite cues in the film, and kind of the philosophy behind the music was to treat more of the girls' music with warmer, more organic type instruments, and Mojo with colder, more analog, synth, unnatural instrumentation. And I think Jim did a fantastic job. This cue is just so charming and just really says, you know, a happy family and it's a good day, you know, but it's really unique and really different. And the origin of the windows. And the girl's house is actually based on the house from Mon Oncle, one of my favorite films by Jacques Tati, a little homage to that film that I love so much.
Ready, go!
And, anything about this sequence?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Other than it was kind of daunting to pull off. Seems so simple.
Yeah, it seems so simple, and for some reason, it's the simplest things that are always most difficult.
And
I really like that version of the house with the blue sky and the blue trees.
mm-hmm.
Okay, girls, time for...
And so each of the girls with, you know, Blossom reading, Buttercup watching TV, and Bubbles drawing. And there's the grim potato, as Justin Thompson
yes.
referred to the potato guy. He had a whole story for those two, that little bear
Bob and the grim
Bob
potato.
and the grim potato. Yeah, he wanted to do episodes about them. Basically, we had held a contest. Somebody draw this drawing that Bubbles would have drawn. You know, that was my idea behind it. And so we opened it up to fans of the show. Who better to draw that? You know, I just had this idea of, hey, you know, let's have the fans participate in the production of this film.
Keen, and this is where kids come to learn. See? Hey, you want to play?
These classroom shots were really difficult for our compositors because all those tables and chairs are on separate levels and all the characters are registered to them and have digital registration cut and all these other issues. And I know that anytime someone had to deal with scenes inside the classroom, they were kind of pulling their hair out because they were very, very, very difficult to put together.
They shouldn't have been.
They shouldn't have been, but
They
for
just
some
ended up.
reason they were.
Okay, bye, girls.
And so there's Professor is the concerned parent that Miss Keene deals with every day. Doesn't care. Slams a door in his face. I love that.
Okay, class, take your seats. Miss Keene, can Blossom sit with us? Can we sit
And
with Bubbles?
Mitch.
The girls can sit
Origin of
right
Mitch.
here in the middle, so they'll be next to everyone.
We had an origin of his shirt in the movie, but never actually got boarded. We just thought it'd be a great idea if one first day he just had a shirt that said Mitch, and then Buttercup told him, you know, he did something funny or whatever, and Buttercup said, "Man, Mitch, you rock." And then he thought about it, and the next day he comes to school with a shirt that says Mitch rocks. but you know, it just didn't happen.
What? This? Oh, this is what happens when you put 20 little kids in one room. Your girls were perfect. Perfect, normal, well-behaved little girls.
Nothing out of the ordinary?
No. Like what?
We kind of wanted to. There hasn't been really any action sequences in the movie yet. We wanted to just kind of take some time and establish the characters and kind of. We knew that that's what kind of people were waiting for. They're eager for it. So we're just kind of like teasing the audience a little bit and just like doing these subtle character things. And that this scene shouldn't exist, or it shouldn't work this way. The animators in Korea couldn't in between that just because it would get so jittery and it would just look terrible. So they came up with this idea of what was it? What did they do?
They actually panned an image of the characters' faces while matting it out by the outer shape of their head to create that sort of 3D features sliding across. Very strange effect.
But even though that looked really good, the bad thing about it is after all their faces stopped and their heads stopped, Bubbles' pigtail did this little follow through where it kind of slid and then locked into place, and it looked like it had its mind of its own, like it was this little satellite orbiting our head. And we were like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. We're going to have to leave that. But then our editor, Rob DeSales, like, very craftily cut that part out of it without affecting the scene. You know, we were very pleased that we lost that little action. And I really like these next scenes, these little simple run cycles. My girlfriend, Lauren Faust, did these, just these little runs of the characters and, like, getting faster and faster. And it's just...
Yeah, they're really cute.
Yeah, they're really cute, but it's just like defining the girls. Like they're just little girls, and then they're becoming superheroes just by running faster. It just, you know, it gets funnier. And we actually, all those layouts, Dave Dunnett laid those out as a loop, so you're actually passing, like you're running around in a circle, like you're on the concrete, then you're on the sand, then you're on the grass, and then you pass the school. And we kept looping it, so it actually makes sense as if the girls are actually running circles around the playground.
And that actual piece of art is just gigantic.
Yeah, it was really huge and scary.
We also had, on that playground sequence, there were some of the first places where you see the digitally receding BGs, which is a technique we used for the movie to create an animated BG type effect without actually animating backgrounds. I think they worked pretty good.
Yeah, because you can always tell when that happens. You know, cow. There's a cow. You can always tell when there's an animated BG. All of a sudden, you know, it changes and it wobbles a bit, and it doesn't have the same texture or feeling of a background painting. And we wanted to make sure that we could animate the background animate the background, so it really it felt like it didn't just stick out. And I'm really happy with the way we pulled it off.
Now that billboard image is the opening shot from the test that we actually did before we started the movie.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little symbol, more, you know, it's like iconic shot, girls destroying city. That's basically what's happening. And here we have all this debris. And here's the little red ball. The little red ball is just part of the debris. I think this whole sequence was really huge when Don Shank first boarded. It was probably like 20 minutes long, and there was a kid who had a red ball, and he lost his ball, and then we kept watching the ball go down the street, but the ball remained, but the kid didn't. 801, our production number that we used as a kind of mysterious kind of advertising tool, PPG 801. That was just simply our production number.
Although that building, for some reason, always said 901.
Yeah.
And
well,
last minute
that was because it was the address of I think Keith Wiesner, who did the layout. And so in compositing, we changed it to 801. It's just too close. So Tag was a pretty daunting sequence. We knew, there's a Halen Brothers.
And their van.
The Halen Brothers van. And they show up later in the film and have some things to say that relate to Halen. Just Tag was just so huge and so massive, and we wanted to just really do this all-out action sequence like we've never seen in the show before. And, you know, we always knew it was going to be something special and it was going to be really difficult, but we really didn't get to it till the last minute. It was like the last sequence we completed, really. And some of the most difficult shots, but, you know, we were just going at such a breakneck pace. We were, you know, lucky we pulled it off. I mean, the fact that we've got things like a chrome ball rolling through the city in, basically this flat world is just kind of nuts. like this drawing. It's very cute there.
I like that crater.
Yeah. My only beef with Tag is that I wish there was cars in the street, and I wish there was people in the street. But, you know,
Can't have it all.
Can't have it all. And here we go, the chrome ball. I don't know how we ended up with a chrome ball in such a flat graphic film, but we pulled it off.
And the chrome ball is actually reflecting a fake city that was built with 2D elements that we created, 2D generic elements that were then set up in 3D space and the ball was rolled past them. So those are the reflections you're seeing, not actually reflections of the backgrounds that the ball is rolling past.
Yeah, because all these backgrounds are flat. I mean, these aren't 3D backgrounds. It's all just, painted on board. And this car, I don't know if everybody knows this, but that's his car. That's the nice car he's referring to, and his date's going to get a good look at it now.
He's got a real lovely ceramic giraffe that Paul Steck
Yeah.
insisted on putting in, and I think it works pretty
Yeah,
well.
it's appropriate.
I was concerned about the readability, but now this restaurant used to play a much bigger part in the sequence, and it was populated with dozens of patrons who were dining and shots of turmoil inside the
Being
restaurant.
spun around as it was rotating.
Yeah.
And we were basically like, we gave you a chrome ball. You got the chrome ball. We're going to lose the people in the restaurant. We can't pull that off.
This piece of fire behind the girls you'll see used throughout the movie. We got a lot of mileage out of it. It was animated by Michel Gagne. Actually, the fire there, when you see this projected, doesn't match the fire here. The colors are different. And same with this scene.
Yeah, and here...
You actually can't tell until you see it big.
The girls, when I laid this out, the girls are kind of flying around the town within their character. Buttercup's all straight lines, Blossom's more graceful, kind of complicated shapes, and Bubbles is just being silly. She actually spells her name if you look closely.
Now, the smoke behind the mare there, coming out of the gas tank, was actually the smoke that was originally animated for the second scene of the movie, but somehow it never showed up in time, so it ended up being used here instead.
Yeah, one thing I'm really happy about is we're able to see more of Townsville Hall. Than, basically we've only stayed in the mayor's office, but this is a huge, building with tons and tons of city employees that, and there's all his lawyers and his legal aides. And I just love the idea that this little idiotic man is in charge of all this, but he has no idea. He's got this massive responsibility and all these people working for him, and he's just a little fool. And that's what's so great about the mayor. He's one of my favorite characters. And, it's obvious in this sequence where all this stuff is going on and he's totally oblivious. He's just more concerned about Hucor's pickles that he has permanently stationed out front of Townsville Hall. And here's Hucor. His original name was Chalmers, but then in recording I said his name's got to be Hucor. He sells pickles, pickled cucumbers, and they're kindred spirits. Yeah, the glory shot. That's a great shot.
Great shot.
Yeah, I wanted to use that as the promo for the movie. Just show that, and say PPG 801. But that pickle shot was actually that was animated a lot longer, tons and tons and tons of dripping. Our effects guy kind of misread the timing on the scene and did this massive dripping for 40 seconds. But it was really good. We just didn't need it. Now this shouldn't be possible because you're basically trucking out from various flat backgrounds at various sizes, in 3D and coming down the street. It's not a 3D scene. And here's the red ball again, getting crushed by the chrome ball. Is that a statement about 2D animation being crushed by 3D animation? I hope it's not. But that was never intended, but it kind of just, this little thing kind of showed up while we were compositing, and I went, hey, look at that. It's a little statement. And this is why the girls' house, the new design, is great, because of this. Because the girls have this loft, and they can fly around in it, and they've got lots of space and lots of headroom to move around their house, as opposed to just having, a two-story house with a ceiling and then an upstairs. It's just it's a big open space.
This sequence is real nice too because you get a real sense of place inside the house. You really get a sense of the architecture, and it really feels like some thought went into it. It works nice.
Yeah, we never did that on the show. We never had time to really kind of have a floor plan, but when the movie started, that was like one of the first things we wanted to do was kind of set up some floor plans and set up some rules for all the environments and where everything is located, you know.
All of the fine art on the walls is some little paintings that Chris Rozak painted, and then we sort of digitally cut and pasted them in all over the place for Professor's art collection.
Mm-hmm.
Except for that really ugly one that's on the left side of the door.
Okay, everybody in?
He didn't paint that.
Well, it's your superpowers.
And so if you'll notice, the girls don't have the PPG engraved in the headboard of their bed, because they're not yet the Powerpuff Girls. They're just Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And you actually never hear them referred to as the Powerpuff Girls anywhere in this movie until the very end. You know, that was the kind of the whole point, is they're not, you know, who they are yet.
Often get scared or angry when they don't understand something
You know,
special
and
or unique.
That's silly.
little lesson from their father.
So too. But nonetheless, take it easy with the powers tomorrow.
Isn't it?
give towns-
Oh yeah, Andy Jollop thinks Professor looks like one of our compositors thinks he looks like a little boy here. I don't know why. He says he's a little kid. And there's our approval stamps, Mike and I's, up at the top for the newspaper. And
So I'll be waiting here to pick you up when school gets out, okay?
Okay, but don't worry, Professor. Things are gonna be fine. Oh, girls! We didn't know if you'd be joining us today. Take your seats. I'm sorry to say there won't be any.
And this sequence originally, we recorded Miss Keene just speaking normally. And it wasn't until like the last minute that we went, wait a minute, she's got to be yelling. This is going to be way funnier if she's yelling over this out of that small refrigerator in the classroom. I don't know what that is. But anyway,
Yikes.
you know, so we had her yell, and it just really sold the sequence, just having her scream over this construction sound. It would have never worked with the original dialogue, you know? One of those things you just miss. And there they are in the spotlight. And then here in the mix, I had them drop all the other work sounds out and just have that jackhammer as a slight homage to Mon Oncle, the opening sounds in that film. And that newspaper, there's an actual real story written by Andy Jollop's brother, Jeff. He wrote a story about the girls actually destroying the city. He's a journalist, and he wrote a whole story about that. Hopefully that'll show up somewhere. So
There's also a Dear Donna column
Oh, yeah.
on the back.
And here we come up with the contest art winner, Laura. That's her drawing. That was the one the fans picked online.
Really very good little
And
girls.
it worked
I
out.
need to pick them up from school.
I understand, sir. But we really would like for you to come downtown with us so we can ask
This
you a
sequence
few
used to feature much more of a cast of hundreds of angry, screaming townspeople that we featured a bit more.
Alone.
And in the test screening, one of the parents was very upset. His only comment about the whole movie was, I didn't like that the flag was flying at night. And that was just a mistake by us. We didn't realize, you're supposed to take the flag down at sundown. But I guess the justification for that is the town is so distraught and so upset that these girls have destroyed the city that they've forgotten to respect the flag and take it down. And it's just one more horrible thing that the girls have wrought because of their little game.
I actually never liked it because the flag is a little too low. It's actually positioned wrong on the flagpole. I don't know why it's not at the top.
Come on.
Maybe it's a pseudo half-mast for the destroyed city.
Maybe
that's the idea.
Something like that.
So this shot's kind of an iconic shot throughout the movie, that horizon with the city and the various states of disrepair. And the idea behind this was you're in a movie theater and you're watching TV. You got bad sound and you've got static and,
Crappy color.
Yeah, and I just like the idea of watching television in a movie theater. And back there on the left, in the middle, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, one of my favorite shows on Cartoon Network. One of the funniest shows I've seen in a long time.
Cause an eruption and lighten up the sky.
Estimated dollars in damages, a whopping 25 million.
I'm offended just looking at it. The kind that you can only find at a pickle car.
These are the Halen brothers, like we said before, and Charlie Bean boarded this and put them in there. And the Halen brothers are upset because their van has been wrecked. And Mayor's holding a police crime scene photo of a dead pickle cart and various dead pickles. And the girls are here, faced. And I almost cut this shot out when we were doing the board. I didn't think we needed it. I thought we could stay on that TV shot. But Lauren was like, what are you, crazy? You need that shot. You really get the girls' emotion. And it would have totally not worked if I cut that out. That would have been such a dumb move.
We interrupt this program for an important news flash. Arrested today in connection with the tag incident was the mad scientist responsible for creating the destructive girls, Professor Utonium. Upon incarceration, the professor had this statement to make.
And that's the same jail that the villains are in at the end.
Yep.
They don't know I'm in jail.
And there's the girls walking through all the destruction they've wrought.
So sad.
Yeah.
They can't find their way if they don't fly.
Yeah, we really wanted to just... the whole point of this movie is to have many different moods and many different feelings and kind of just really kind of go all out with it. So, if it's going to get sad, we're going to get really sad. If it's going to get silly, it's going to get silly. If it's going to get dark, it's going to get dark. It's kind of what we do with the show. So, and that's why, from an art direction standpoint, it's much darker and moodier than we've really ever seen from this series.
Well, I can't say it's been the best day.
This sequence coming up in the rain is probably one of my absolute favorite sequences in the whole film, just from a visual standpoint and from a boarding standpoint.
It's okay. Maybe there's a box we can get in around back.
The rain is all digital. It's all 3D rain. And the splashes are all 2D, animated by hand. And this shot coming up is probably my absolute favorite shot in the whole movie, right here. I just really love that. I loved it in the board, and I knew it had a lot of potential to just be a really cool-looking shot. So I just put all this work into getting their wet hair just to look right. And it just turned out perfect. The gang's a lot creepier in this than they ever were in the TV show, but they're supposed to be a threat. I love that. One drawing, just move it through in compositing. It's so cool. And the music here is actually similar music to the opening credits. And here's Hobo Jojo, mysterious stranger. A bag on his head.
Wow, Finn! Hey, wait! Come back!
There's just this was like a really different mood than we've ever been able to achieve in the series, and it was just we never really got rain to work right, but I think we were able to do it right. I also like just the visual idea here of sitting in a movie theater but looking at a little box. You're inside the little box with JoJo. And he's being really phony and really fake and totally scamming the girls here. So that's why his music here it's basically a mellotron, which was used in Strawberry Fields by the Beatles, and it's just this kind of fake string sound that's used with tape loops. It's like an early sampler kind of, and it just sounds so phony and so haunting and so creepy. So I wanted Mojo to be insincere, so we picked fake strings for him just to add this kind of old and sound to him, and there's record scratches and everything to just make it much dirtier. But then the girls' music is all played with real strings because their emotions are actually sincere. And the end of this scene, when the girls start getting sad, is when the real strings come in, kind of playing them as more truthful and more honest. And not phony like Mojo is. And I just like this pompous writing of him, that his dialogue is just so over the top and melodramatic and just so dumb. I think this is a very funny sequence. Some people don't, but it's just so overly melodramatic on his part that I just love it. And here we have a 3D shot coming up right there, 3D background, 2D character. And when we originally did that, we accidentally left Mojo's bag on, and we didn't notice it until we saw the scenes in sequence. And so at the last minute, I just drew a quick drawing of Mojo's brain, gave it to the guys at Savage Frog, our 3D place, and they mapped it right onto the 2D Mojo, and works perfectly. And Gray Matters, a kind of subtle joke talking about his brain. I don't know if anyone ever got that.
Subtle?
Well, I don't know if anybody ever got nothing in his gray matters, and he's referring to his head.
I think they'll get it.
I hope. And again, in the box.
Yeah, this shot's good.
Just finding Mojo's character with his eyes and his smile.
You mean if I take the time to construct my most ingenious plan to help the town and make it a better
And the thing I like about these shots is you almost don't know what he says. You're feeling the same thing Buttercup's feeling, and so when then you cut to the top of the volcano, you have no idea where you are. So you're kind of experiencing the same things the girls are, and Mojo's kind of explaining it to the audience at the same time. We kind of did that jump cut on purpose to kind of disorient you.
Really pleased with how the lava treatment on these scenes turned out. It was a mixture of all sorts of different elements and a bunch of digital magic and
virtual magic.
And I think it works pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, that was the top of the lava is just one drawing by Dave Dunnett of just a lava texture surface that we just mapped into there and kind of slowly rotated around. It wasn't supposed to work that easily, but it did.
Somehow it did.
Yeah. And there's me, according to Mike Lazo. He says that shot looks just like me, which I guess means I'm Mojo. Inside the volcano. Didn't ever really work 100% like we wanted it to, but it kind of gets the idea across. I think a lot of those rocks were supposed to be spinning, at different speeds and to get depth and really get a kind of a disorienting time tunnel feel, but we never really
It was
pulled it off.
real decadent the way it was broken up, but it never quite came together.
You did very good indeed.
But it does work.
Yes.
First we construct the
There's the
superstructure.
blueprint.
Yeah, and this sequence originally was very different. It had, after every time the girls would build something, they'd sneak back home, and Professor would be on the phone defending the girls, saying like, no, they weren't out in the North Pole, they weren't doing this, and then, basically showing that they were kind of deceiving their father. But I think there was just too many dark moments throughout the movie, and we just wanted to get a little happier, more just montage. This was not supposed to work this way. This animation is actually the animation of the girls from flying into the North Pole, and Brian Ainsley, the compositor, reused it and restuck it in there and flopped it and moved it around and made it work so the girls could go through the submarines, because the original animation that was done just didn't really do the job. But through more virtual magic, we were able to fix the scene. It's actually turned out great, one of the best scenes. Coming up is
My favorite shot
Yeah.
is coming up.
one of your favorite shots right there.
Right there. That's it.
That's just so nice.
Greatest shot in the film.
See, our plan is
Yeah, we worked really hard on this contraption that they build, this machine, getting it to feel like something that had some legitimacy to the design and had kind of its own thing going for it. Pretty happy with where we ended up.
Mm-hmm. The main machine's kind of like what do you call it, like an atom or something.
Yeah.
And so here's girls stealing their father's chemical X. Thinking they're doing good. At one point we were worried we weren't going to be able to get the machine that complicated and that complex, and one of the suggestions was just to make it a ball. And but we weren't really able to it didn't really work story wise. It would have been more work to try to just turn it into a ball instead of like a big cluster of grapes.
Yeah.
So here's the zoo sequence is kind of weird. It's odd that they just need to get to the zoo so Mojo can shoot the monkeys. But it's just really silly that they spend all this time flying all over the world and building this machine for this weird monkey, and he rewards them by taking them to the zoo. I mean, it's such but I guess it turned out. And the music here just sells it. The music with the kazoos and stuff that Jim did just really sells the silly, happy day with their monkey friend at the zoo. The only weird thing is, why isn't anyone noticing that there's this green monkey out of his cage, hanging out with these 3 little girls that obviously the town doesn't like? At one point I was even thinking of just having his, scarf hiding his face so, people didn't notice, but I just thought it's really logic hammering it. Here we go, some great character layouts by Kerry Yost of all these screaming monkeys. He just nailed all these guys, and each one is funny and each one is cool looking. And as the scenes proceed, the Bee Gees get hotter and hotter and hotter and get more intense. Here's our odd evolution sign. I like the jump from almost to awesome. That's all it takes, And then there's the wax machine, and that was I was a real stickler for making sure we got a wax machine in this movie. If you're going to the zoo, you got to have a wax machine where you can make the little animals, and that's one of the best things about the LA Zoo. I don't know if they have that other places, but that's always been one of my favorites. So you can go to the Townsville Zoo and make a little wax man right there next to the evolution sign.
Those close-ups of the monkey fur I was especially pleased with.
Yeah. The trucking, those are a few Bee Gees you're trucking into, you're trucking into the monkey and then cutting to another scene. It kind of works pretty seamlessly.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think you dropped this.
People still.
Now that barn was supposed to say livestock above it. That
Yeah.
was the livestock
Yeah.
display, and it was actually just left off the painting
Yeah,
accidentally.
you could go to the zoo and see chickens because they're such exotic animals.
And there's the gigantic birds.
There's gigantic birds who aren't in cages, who
Yes.
could easily just fly away.
And the unfortunate part is there were hundreds of other animals
Yeah.
designed for Townsville Zoo that never made an appearance, but somehow that shot ended up with 8 gigantic birds.
And these 3 scenes were added at the last minute, kind of to just put a cap. We re-edited so much stuff around, certain ideas didn't work anymore, so we had to add these last few shots to kind of wrap up this whole sequence with the girls spending time with Mojo, or with Jojo rather, at this point. And they are returning home. And all these bits were a lot earlier in the movie originally, but we just changed the color of the sky, and now it's nighttime. And I just love this visually, that Professor is so beaten, so distraught, that he has no strength to get up. There's no telling what happened to him when he was in jail. We just decided to not
can only imagine.
to go. You can only imagine. We didn't go there, what he had to deal with. So he's a broken man. Can't even get up. But he's got a lot to say, though.
What a mess.
Yeah.
What's next?
Don't worry, Professor. Things are gonna get better.
Now this sequence was unbelievably difficult for the compositors. There's so many different elements working for it. I think the end result's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. Transporting the monkeys.
All of those flashes you see are the same flashes on the scanner at the supermarket at the beginning of the film.
And originally we had a scene where Mojo actually came into his lair and he threw off his hobo JoJo outfit and he was in his underwear, in his little tighty whities. And I just thought it was really funny that this evil monkey's just hanging out in his underwear as he's mutating these other chimps, but it just never made it. Now this shot is very difficult.
This is the biggest shot that's ever been composited in U.S. animation. It goes from what's called a 2-field.
Well, it goes from a .8 field.
Oh, yeah, you're right. A .8 field to 18,000 field.
So you've got to go from .8 to 1, then from 1 to 18,000.
Which in animation terms just makes no sense.
Right.
So,
but we pulled it off. It took about 2 weeks or more to render this thing.
Oddly enough, the shot was so big that there never really was a chance for us to even see what it was going to look like completed. We just had to sort of roll the dice and hope that it all was going to work out.
Yeah. And that's totally my fault. I just love shots going from somebody's face out to the universe. So I try to do it all the time in the show, and you never can pull it off. But I knew we can pull it off here.
Actually, most of my involvement on the film consisted of just dealing with shots like that and making sure that layouts got prepared the right way and teaching people how to.
You did more than that.
Yeah, well, doesn't seem like it sometimes. Always upset that Mojo wasn't bobbing up and down in that shot. And Professor's Den is a really cool environment that we saw much more in a previous cut of the film, but now we only really see it in two or three shots in the movie.
Here we go. But, we had a plan to do it without really having to animate every one of those guys. Most of those guys are just still drawings that are put on a particle generator and just kind of blown out, like they're exploding. And it really turned out just the way it was supposed to.
On this green stuff, we put sort of a filtered effect over the whole scene to give it sort of ghastly, kind of photographic, very bizarre treatment.
Yeah. It's kind of like the green of the monkey skin, and it's kind of affecting the city.
Yeah.
And originally there was Mojo dialogue on each of these cutbacks, but his dialogue really overpowered what the girls were saying. And it was really this kind of counterpoint with each one saying something, but his stuff was so overbearing that it just kind of totally smothered the girls, so we pulled it out. And then here we come into scene 67. We never knew if we'd ever be able to pull this off, but it was so scribbly and rough in the board, and it was done at the last minute, but it was such a good idea. I wanted to try to get it into the movie, and Kamo, one of the compositors, was able to pull it off perfectly, and it just really, really sells. It really pulls you into this environment. It really gives you the right idea, the girls, perspective on what's going on here. This was added. That he didn't ever say all this stuff originally.
I shall be known as Mojo Jojo. For too long, apes and monkeys have been under the thumb of man. Well, the time has come.
There was a lot more shots of people being attacked by monkeys in one of the cuts, but it got really intense and it got really kind of vicious and a little bit violent, very violent actually. And so we cut a lot of them out.
Oddly enough, most of those scenes with all the crowd, when the scenes came back from overseas, there were no crowds that were animated. That was a mixture of flat models and stock characters and all this different stuff.
And it was all put together in compositing, just using all these different elements and cutting and pasting.
It's really difficult.
Yeah, this sequence in the city kind of went through the most incarnations, trying to just, make this sillier, put more jokes in it, and take out some violence and pace it up a little more. Just this little part of the movie just really got kind of beaten, and this was a real tough to just kind of get it to where all parties involved were happy with it. A lot of these monkeys originally did a lot more stuff. They actually, each one showed what their deal was, And the one thing is, like, where is he getting this tank from, and where's the baboon bot come from? And we actually put a joke in there where Mojo said, "Where did you get that?" But that one got cut out, and I was kind of upset that one got cut out, because it's kind of like all of a sudden they've got all this stuff.
Right there were some really cool shots of that building falling over that hopefully will make the director's cut.
Yeah. And this turned out really good. That would make a nice toy.
Yes, it would.
And, there's a lot of homages to pop culture, monkeys and pop culture. There's an obvious There's the snow monkeys in the hot water. That water's boiling. I know it's hard to kind of get that idea across, but it's not just a flood that's flooding the town. It's a flood of boiling water. It's even worse. There's the cymbal monkey, and we actually saw those cymbals destroy and blow out glass and destroy buildings that way, and we actually saw that at one point. And you know, if you're gonna do a bunch of monkeys, you gotta have a proboscis that sings like Jimmy Durante. It's just I think it's some sort of rule.
Filmmaking law.
Yeah, you gotta have that. We didn't want to do that. We were forced to do that by some sort of monkey committee.
Tornado.
Tomato.
Hey, Pappy Wappy! Stop! Cease! Desist! Do not continue with your ramblings, for my ramblings are the ramblings to be obeyed, for I am the king, supreme leader, and all-around dictator. Don't you see?
And Mojo originally had a little more reiterating, more classic Mojo. The idea was Mojo had his act together through this whole film, and he didn't reiterate that much. And then at this point, when he's finally lost control, and he's finally becoming Mojo we know from the shows, when he starts his reiterating and his double talk and his saying things over and over again. And like I said, you know, there's subtle origins within the origin story. And that was kind of the idea behind that, but a lot of it got lost.
This asteroid sequence flying through to the asteroid that the girls are on was created with a number of flat background paintings that we painted here, and then they were cut out and sort of composited on all these flat surfaces in 3D space to create this rather Baroque shot that starts the sequence. And those same asteroids are used throughout this sequence, sort of in the distance, floating behind the girls. Has a lot of depth, this sequence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's basically just Lauren boarded this sequence and really just kind of wanted to showcase the girls' different perspectives of how they all feel about, you know, what they've done. And, you know, we didn't want to make it sappy or give the girls all one kind of opinion about how they feel about it. They're all kind of dealing with this in different ways because they're you know, they're different people and they're different, you know, they have different feelings. And I think she really did a great job of like getting across what siblings and kids, you know, fight like, you know, and how they can be without, you know, being too preachy or too, you know, lessony about it. I really like how this turned out. The one problem with it was we couldn't, from an editing standpoint, we couldn't cut anything internal in these scenes, because if we did, all those asteroids would jump because they're constant throughout the scene. So this is just kind of only cutting heads and tails off the scenes and just leaving the action happening the way it originally was.
Now there were concerns at one point early on about the girls' colors throughout the sequence, if it was too void of color and too bizarre and strange. But I think everyone sort of got on board with it.
Though some of the kids in the focus group didn't like it. They didn't like the black and white sequence.
Oh.
Because I think children have lost the ability to see black and white.
Oh, yes.
And I don't think they have the photoreceptors in their eyes anymore to register.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame. That's great. I love this. That drawing of them rolling is one drawing. But it works so well. It's just one drawing spun through the scene. It really gets... And the one thing I didn't want to do a fight cloud with little fists coming out of it with, you know, the word POW in the middle of it. I just... Ugh. They're going to really roll. It's so good. She sits on her.
I didn't realize the kids didn't like this sequence.
They liked it. They liked it. I just don't think they liked the color. They had comments about the art direction. They were upset about it.
Give them my number.
Yeah. And originally, the E.G.'s reads on this were much more screamy and much more like really, really angry and really vicious. And we thought it was great when we first recorded it. But then when it just didn't play really well when when you watched it back. It was just like, God, you really couldn't look past Buttercup. Oh, there's a real picture of the Earth.
I'm on the fence about that.
Yeah,
shot
I know
of the Earth.
he hates it. But you know, then we just went in and re-recorded E.G. with kind of a lighter, more frustrated, and it totally sold the sequence. It just made it all work. Finally, you know, you weren't so like shocked by her viciousness attacking her sisters. You know, and a lot of these cutbacks back to Earth, we originally had a lot more stuff planned that just didn't make it. Some of it we never even bothered to finish compositing. I cut a lot of the scenes.
That last thing we just saw was the mandrill. And
yes.
That was designed to be reminiscent of the three-wheeled vehicles made during the 70s.
Yeah, a lot of the cars and vehicles, Mike was a big stickler about like being really accurate to how they were portrayed. The one thing I wanted to get my car in there, and we never got.
I just realized that.
We got Mike's car in there. We never got mine in there.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's what sequels are for.
Those shots of buildings being ripped apart by the tornado were all, those skins of the buildings were all created in 3D to save animators from having to animate all these tiny shards of glass.
Yeah.
Debris.
And here the girls are not facing the evil. They're doing their classic, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. That was kind of an icon for the movie.
Now the transition to red in an earlier version of the film made sense. Now it's a little bit abrupt.
Yeah, originally the tornado exploded and kind of blew out all the scenes red, and it.
And that horse falling down was actually a building.
That was a building.
That was a building.
And we thought, well, let's, not have another building fall. So we made a statue of the mayor. And actually, that statue, I think if you have a statue and your horse is rearing up, it means you died in battle. But the mayor is obviously not dead, and I doubt has been in any battles, so he probably just ordered it because it looked cool.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that shot. Right?
And there's a subtle thing. That baby is actually the baby from the zoo, and at the end of the movie, you can see that the baby is given back to the mother that was in the zoo.
Now, this red sequence starts what's referred to as the third act of the movie, and this entire act, we decided sort of late in the game to lay the whole thing out here and do all the production layouts for the sequence here in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, the reason for that is, we did most of the layouts were all sent back to us from Korea, and myself and Lauren practically went over every single character layout through the whole film, and our BG layout guys went over all the backgrounds, and at a certain point we just said, well, let's just do them here for this act. Andy Bialk took a very long time designing those two models, but well worth it. They're very complex. Here we've got the line Buttercup says, originally it wasn't written this way, but in the table read of the movie, I believe Tom Kenny, I hope I'm right about that, said, or maybe it was Tom Kane, said, she should say, get your hands off of me, you darn dirty ape, as a Planet of the Apes homage. And I was like, oh, duh, right, obviously, she's got to say that. So, we wrote that in at the last minute right before we started recording. I think she originally said, let him go or whatever, something like that.
It was an accident. He wouldn't let go, and the dog, that stupid dog, and the monkeys, and he, I couldn't, he couldn't, oh man. Buttercup! You're a genius! I am? She is?
I've always wished there was a push-in on this scene. Mm-hmm. It's holding too long, and I always wish there was just a slight drift on it every time I see it. And here we go, the first time we hear the Powerpuff theme stated. They've used their powers to fight crime. That freeze frame just so we can state the theme. And coming up is what I think is the most iconic, symbolic shot of what the whole film is about. 3 cute, innocent little girls destroying an army of evil monkeys that are raining down on them. So that's kind of like represents the movie right there.
Girl! Shut up! I was afraid of this. They've returned and found out just what their powers can really do. Come, You will make a good power-proof vest.
Most of those water scenes that we just passed, we chose to animate all the water and the floods here in Los Angeles because we didn't want to force the people overseas to animate that stuff, which is so difficult and so complicated. So we put together sort of a crackerjack team of effects guys for that.
Yeah.
They
Some
did a
of
good job.
the layout guys animated stuff as well. Dave Kupchak animated that Bubbles jump roping. Just because we knew it would be really tricky. I'd rather pull it off here and do it ourselves. And there, he's kind of covered in blood. Kind of.
Yeah, kind
That
of.
kind of works there. There's
And
a
then coming up is this great idea you had on the Tornado right here, where the camera does a sort of
on the
Batman
mandrel.
style. Yeah.
The mandrel. Yeah, when she grabs it, we wanted to get that idea of spinning, so we just spun the shot.
Really like how that turned out.
Yeah. Just destroying monkeys faster and faster. You know, I always thought this would be one reason we put that in there. I thought, oh, they can use all that stuff for trailers. That's why those 3 money shots of the girls just posing in their dresses we put in the movie, because it was like, oh, that'll be good for a trailer. And they used it. We didn't even suggest it. They just used it.
Professor. Where could he be? Take a good guess.
And there was a shot in between this shot and the next shot where the girls like were shooting through the whole city, and it was this massive layout. But
It was insane.
it was insane, and it just never got into the movie. The last minute, at the 11th hour, I don't know how many. We had a lot of 11th hours.
Many.
No, girls, save yourselves.
Sorry, Professor. We can take this.
So we were never really happy with how
Nothing they can do can stop
this color never really turned out exactly right
No.
in the film print. It just, I don't know, it just didn't have the right feel. So hopefully the DVD will be much closer, you know. If we screen the movie digitally, then it would have been perfect, but, you know, there aren't many theaters that can offer that. But someday.
Even if it means taking extreme measures!
You wouldn't.
I would!
Or strobing. And the thing that bugs me is, okay, he used all the Chemical X on the other monkeys. Where did he get a new full beaker of Chemical X? I don't know. Okay, whatever. You're following the story. It's a slight plot hole, but it works. I don't know. Maybe he saved some of it. Maybe he didn't use all of it just in case he needed to do this. He's pretty smart.
These shots right here have this very strange video filter over them to give that sort of juiced up green, bizarre look, and man, was it a disaster on film.
Yeah. And here we go.
There's lots of that fire again.
Mojo's new incarnation, Mojo. He was Jojo, Hobo Jojo, Mojo Jojo, and Mojo. So we got lots and lots of Mojo through here.
As I was saying before,
And coming up is a really, this was just such I thought a great idea that we came up with is just having Mojo, crown himself king using, the symbol or the center of Townsville Hall, just crowning himself with the rotunda.
Jojo shall be king!
He finally gets to finish his speech. He had stuff to say, and
That's the world's ugliest background.
yeah, everyone was really rushing on this production, and kind of stuff had to suffer at certain points. We bit off a lot. The only thing that bugs me about these 3 scenes is just that Buttercup's palette is slightly wrong. She's got more of an olive skin, and the other 2 are more pink, and it's bugged me. But I guess you've got to have something like that. It's got to be something that just isn't right. More or the tag-esque Bee Gees. And Mojo right there, it's hard to tell, but he's actually fishing in a building with a lamppost and pulling out citizens. He's going to eat them. He's basically being like a chimpanzee in a termite nest. He's just going to start devouring the citizens of Townsville. It's almost impossible to tell, but just so you know, that's what he was doing. I thought they would use that for a trailer, but I haven't seen that. Who are you calling cute?
It was a publicity still, though, that shot.
Yeah.
You'll see on this sequence we put gradations on Mojo's character most of the time to sort of integrate him with the BG because he's so large. He's got such a big scale, and the BGs are so dark. We really needed to do something just to keep it from being too flat.
And I just really like the idea of, this is kind of a real symbol of what the show is all about, is these tiny little girls, being able to destroy something so massive and so giant and so big and still being kids. And Mike hates one of these shots coming up. He almost made me cut it out of the movie, but I thought I knew it was going to be quick. And I love that shot.
Yeah, that shot's
But Mike hates that one right there.
Awful.
That zapping.
Painful.
But I like it.
That shot.
And then I like this a lot. Lauren did the layouts for this one coming up right here. And I just really like the little action here, the flipping.
Somebody's mad.
Now, originally, when this came back, you couldn't actually see the quills on the backgrounds because they had chosen to paint most of the backgrounds black, which was pretty fun to deal with.
But some of those quills are 3D and some of them are 2D. And I think they match pretty good.
Yeah. The whole group over at Savage Frog did a real great job in terms of integrating their 3D into our 2D universe. This shot I actually didn't think would ever make it in the movie.
Yeah, the girl's getting burned.
I like it, but I didn't think it would make it.
They're superheroes. They can take it. It's slightly warm for them. They're more screaming at the idea that he would dare, blow fire on them.
I like the way Mojo looks right there.
Yeah. There's a homage to King Kong. Obviously, got to do that. If you've got a giant monkey, he has to climb a building. Again, just rules. And this interior right here, this is our second floor at Cartoon Network Studios where we made this film, and most of those people are, the employees. There's myself, Lauren, Mike was in there. We're all in there. Like the idea that Mojo was, ripping up the building. But the line, though, is those who hated you and those who have forsaken you, and I don't think we necessarily did that to the girls in this movie. The line's not really appropriate.
And that tall building is the same one from earlier that we saw the glass shatter.
Yeah, the CTN building.
I like that shot a lot.
Yeah, there's that iconic Townsville. You can tell how bad a shape Townsville is by looking at that shot just throughout the movie. You can follow the film just as Townsville gets more and more in states of disrepair. And here's the girls. Join me. This is Mojo's moment. And here's where the girls get triumphant and make their statement. It might get a little heavy-handed, might get a little preachy. I was worried that it gets too statement-y, but I think the payoff really makes any kind of preachiness that this might possibly have. This little joke here. They're being really serious, and then they get really silly. Let me bring it back to the game of tag. Origin of curses. The first time Mojo's ever said curses. And then that Antidote X was pretty difficult to map onto that.
You were adamant about that one?
Yeah, well, we got to know. It says Antidote X.
Yeah, we certainly do.
He said it was.
We certainly do.
And then the Antidote X. And, okay, yeah, he doesn't go back to JoJo. he goes back to Mojo Jojo because it's a prequel. We got to have Mojo Jojo.
Oh, girls, I'm so sorry for doubting you. You
And that shot's very similar to the shot of Jojo hugging the girls in the zoo.
And we're really sorry. We messed up really bad.
There's some real nice background paintings in this sequence.
And Lazo thinks the girls are going to get spanked right there. Just the way they're kneeling down. And here's a little surprise. See if you can find the secret character in that. Yeah, it's something we've never seen in Powerpuff before, but we see it now.
Don't do that, because that was pretty cool.
And I like the mayor being totally incompetent.
I think what the mayor is
Yeah,
trying
he's
to
real
say
good here.
is
Yeah.
sorry and thank you.
Yes, that was super, just super.
amazing.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
Stupendous.
You rock!
Thank you.
Talking dog. Originally, the talking dog wasn't in there. Originally, it was Lauren and I's dog, Lucy. And then Linda Saminsky, when we pictured the board, said, "Oh, that's going to be the talking dog, right?" And we went, duh, yeah, of course. And then, we added the joke of him saying thank you. It just made so much more sense. I just don't know how we missed that idea, but thank God it's in there.
Yep.
Yeah, that was great. You know,
Yeah.
this
I love what an
town's
idiot he
great.
is.
And I
Mayor's one of my
was
favorite
wondering
characters.
Maybe
the whole series.
sometime we could, call you to save the day or...
And here's one more little origin, the origin of the catchphrase, saving the world before bedtime.
Okay, but only if it's before your bedtime.
And then return to the status quo. We've got, the main thing was making this ending seem like the show, just from a visual perspective. The colors, blue skies, and this is a little dark for me, actually.
Yeah.
I thought that could be a little better in the hotline. We wanted to have a scene where we had Professor invent the hotline and give it to the mayor, and Miss Bellum had to kind of instruct the mayor how to use it. And then punch, punch, jail door slam, kind of a joke we have about the show. Like if you didn't do an action sequence, just do punch, 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 jail door slam, and that wraps it up. And we wanted to avoid doing that in the movie, but, as a joke, we just kind of put it in there. And here's the opening narration of the series, ending the actual movie. And this was the last scene approved, actually, in compositing, right there.
It was kind of
And these four shots, similar four shots from the beginning of the movie, but now the city's in much better shape.
everything is happy.
Everything is good. And then finally, the radiating hearts are not all wobbly. They're now nice and perfect. And the exploding stars, feel like they're, I don't know. They just feel they're not just falling. They feel like they have a little bit of an explosion there. And I really like the idea that we came up with it totally at the last minute, that the narrator actually came up with a name for the girls. There wasn't any kind of real reason behind it. He just kind of named them. I really love that. Lauren came up with that at the last minute. Then here we've got the new Biss song, the new punker, faster version. I felt like, okay, we were doing a movie and we've kind of done a lot of new things that we haven't done before with the show, and so let's do a new end theme for the movie, and it turned out really great. They went and recorded a new one. Also following that, we got the Frank Black track, and basically the reason I picked that is because I felt like lyrically the sentiments of that song had really similar themes to like what actually happened in this movie. The girls being in space, and the panicking in the streets, and the mysterious monkey. And so we used that song. It turned out great. The other song, Warner's wanted a song so they could use it in commercials to promote the film, and so they gave us that track. The one thing I said is I'm not putting any pop songs in the middle of the movie, but we can put them at the end of the credits. It's fine. And so I wanted to just while these credits are rolling, take the time to thank everybody who worked on this film. And I know this was a really kind of a daunting project, and we didn't really have a lot of time to do it, and we were really pushed. And I know we really tried a lot of new things that we hadn't done before, and everybody just did a fantastic and incredible job pulling through and just making this movie incredible. It's better than I could have ever imagined it would have been. You know, I'm really, really, really happy with everyone's work and everyone's talent and what they've done. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Mike, you have anything?
Oh, yeah, thanks. We couldn't have done it without the unbelievable all-star crew that we had. So thanks to everybody, and sorry for the rough times getting here, but hopefully everyone can be proud of it.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough going back and doing the show. We got really spoiled making this movie, of being able to finesse everything like we have been. It's going to be tough going back and making a series on the assembly line process, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. But
sure, will do great.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled with this movie. I'm really happy with it, the way it turned out. Is that good?